We started out with a very sincere desire to create a celebration of Broadway in a new kind of way.
This has a chance to be an iconic attraction in New York.
It's completely original, and yet it complements Broadway.
Broadway 4D's got a lot of potential.
Having Broadway 4D, another family-friendly venue, will really fulfill the vision that I had of a place where you can bring your children and be proud of it and really enjoy it.
I'm Gary Goddard, I'm the creator of Broadway 4D, and I'm going to give you a preview of what we are going to be creating on 42nd Street in Times Square, what we call Theater of the 21st Century. We're here in Times Square. This is the heart of Times Square, and our theater is right off Times Square, right down this street, just past the subway station. So I'm going to take you there to show you now. Come on. When you see where our theater is located, it's pretty incredible that we have Times Square here, we have the subway station here. Across the street you can see the Disney Theater with Mary Poppins, and right down the street a little further is Tussauds. And our theater, which is currently being used as a marquee for Spider-Man, is going to be right here. This is where we're going to have our theater. So you can see it's an unbelievable location. Currently being used to sell Spider-Man and other shows, but all along here, this is our spot. We are in the Beehive. We are where the people are. We're inside the theater now, and as you can see, we have not yet begun our process of transforming this from old to new. This place hasn't been touched in probably 20 years. From the highest point of the balcony, you can see this is it's a big theater, and you can also see how these seats are actually great seats for a 3D film presentation. You're going to see this transform into a beautiful restored theater where we will then have our Broadway 4D production. It's going to be quite spectacular.
And you've got two fantastic talents working side by side. That is Gary Goddard, who's created some of the iconic attractions throughout the world, Jurassic Park, Spider-Man, Terminator, as well as Bryan Singer. He certainly worked on the cutting edge of both technology and storytelling. The fact that you've got both these guys working side by side, I think, is a fantastic combination.
Well, I think what people don't realize is Gary Goddard has an enormous role in the evolution of contemporary 3D. He and James Cameron did Terminator 2 3D for the Universal theme park, and that was a very pioneering 3D, 4D show, incredibly successful, and it also brought James Cameron into the world of 3D.
Broadway 4D is taking what we call 4D technology and merging it with 3D technology to create a new kind of immersive experience. But this is something we've done before very successfully in theme parks and attractions around the world. The golden standard is going to be Broadway 4D because we are taking now all of this technology that we've developed and we're going to apply them in a new way that brings the greatest Broadway musical numbers into this entirely new world where the songs are performed by many of the greatest musical stars of the world. Broadway's greatest shows, Broadway's greatest songs.
New York City is a great international city. I used to like to call it the capital of the world.
New York, first of all, is the #1 tourist destination in the world and certainly in the United States. When anybody visits New York, the first thing they want to do is they want to go to a Broadway show. Well, a Broadway ticket now costs more than $150, and for less than $100, we're going to be able to take an entire family of 4 at a price they can afford.
There is no visit complete to New York without going to Times Square. New York City will be reaching 50 million visitors a year.
I grew up in New Jersey, and my parents probably once every month or so would take me into Manhattan to see a Broadway musical. I was very blessed. I got to see great shows in their heyday. It fostered a deep interest, and that fanship has kind of translated to my interest in this project.
Brian's actually very hands-on with me. He's very involved in the casting process and what we're going to do to make sure this attraction is unlike anything anyone's seen before.
This theater is ideally located because of its proximity to Broadway, but also because of its proximity to other tourist attractions.
The fact that Broadway 4D is going to be occupying a historic theater and really getting back to its purpose, its original use, is something really spectacular and something that you don't see.
It's a beautiful, handsome building. It will be a shining landmark on 42nd Street. It will stand out wonderfully in that New York Times Square environment.
The most exciting thing for me is the originality of it. Something that complements Broadway musicals, which is something that's very important to me, makes it accessible to people of all ages, and presents it in a way both visually, experientially, and acoustically that they've never experienced them before.
So what we're doing is we're creating a show that theater fans will love, musical fans will love, but we're also creating a show that people of every age, of every race, from every country who are in Times Square can experience a sense of what the Broadway musical is. For all these tourists who are perhaps unable to see a show, or they can only see one show, well, here's something to see. In addition to your one show, you get to see our show, which will give you some of the greatest performances of all time and really give you a broad sweep of what the Broadway musical is all about and what great performances are all about. There's no doubt the most sensational musical spectacular you will ever experience will be Broadway 4D.